Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's December 14th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And we had two measured legs down. If you measure this first leg right here and get your measured move, we had basically a perfect measured move down. There's a couple of, there's multiple swings in there, and it didn't look like we were going to quite get it, but eventually they fought it down there, got it, and we bounced from there and traded out of there and actually closed back up. If you see this area right here, let me just color it so we can see it a little better. Let's just go with this color right here. We'll just lightly color it. It looked like it was a possibility we'd have a trading range. You can see that kind of greenish blue in there, aqua blue or whatever that is. I think they call that cayenne or whatever. But and the open price here seemed to be an important price. You can see we tested it on both sides, but it looked like we were going to be in a range, but you had to think if we broke lower here, look for a possible measured move, and that's what we got. And almost to the tick. And then we bounced out of there and we closed back inside the green range area. So I'm not really going to call this a range day. This is really two legs down, and then we corrected after that. So it didn't really play out like a range day. A lot of sideways action here, but it's really two measured legs down. So anyway, let's back zoom in, back out a little bit here, and zoom in, and I always want to say back out because it feels like I'm backing out, but we're really zooming in here. So, and 7 o'clock came just in this little dip here. We had a little channel working up. We got a close outside, move to a new high, and then we got a lower high right here. And this is also, notice this, technically that's not a new swing low, but it's still two legs of correction. And really you could treat this, we went up and turned down and went up again. So it's a failed second entry long, but I'm just trading it as a lower high with a nice signal bar right there. And it's originally had this trend line a little lower. So technically that, looking back at it after the fact, I think I had it right when it was lower there. Let's just look at that. If you see this right here, that's the way I originally had it, more like this right here. And if you play it that way, it fits better and you get a close outside and a new low. And that would account for this correction here that didn't really look right previously. So this is probably more correct than the way I originally had it. So either way, it doesn't matter. You still get your breakout side. You still get your lower high here after the correction. You can see this channel working up. We get a close outside, move to a new high, and then a lower high right here. Nice, fairly bearish bar. That's, if you catch this one trade, that may be all you need today. You get a nice runner out of that one. Drops on down. And then we just start kind of working sideways. There's another little second entry here. Notice there's a new low, first entry, second entry. But this is really a little trading range. And so you can see we've tried to go higher once, twice, three times there. Second entry short. Relatively low risk bar. 7 ticks. Very bearish. Plenty of room to get out. Doesn't matter. It goes much lower. Then it comes back. Gives you a lower high, but you're back at the range. You want to see it test that at least twice. And there's the next one, another bearish bar. And that is also a failed second entry long. So I like going short right there. As long as you got room to here, you're probably okay with that trade. Just make sure you got room to get out. And then we bounce here. And you got a double bottom here and then a leg up. So you try to go short once, twice. I marked this one green. It's a failure, but there's a lot of sideways action right there. You got to go long right into the highs of some resistance. There's a little congestion or range area right there. But it closes above the EMA. It's probably going to trap the shorts, especially with that second entry short. So I like that trade, but it's a little aggressive. So I marked it green. And of course it runs on up, and you really don't get another chance to enter up through here. They're just running stops here until they kind of run out of steam. and then you're working down, you make a new low, you try to go short once, and you try to go short twice, and so that's another second entry short. There's a little sideways action here, but you don't have that no body bar or bar that has no body or tiny body or no body, so I still like that one. Uh, it looked like I was going to be a bad call at first, but it does work on down. And then we come back and we just test this area again up here on this range, and we started here. You tested that area once, twice. It's another double test. Chance to get short at the very high, relatively small bar. It's not as small as our other one, but 11 ticks. And we drop on down. Of course, it bounces across that bottom. No reason to get long in there. I'd wait on a higher low here if we broke lower, and we never get it. We actually make a lower high here. You might have looked at that as a failure, but it's not back to the EMA. It is off the trend line. I just think you're better off to wait. And if you do, just a few minutes later, you get a second entry short right here. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry, a really bearish bar, nice setup. Right at the EMA, another test of this breakout. You should get an easy scalp out of that, and it actually runs on down, makes a new low, then we just kind of work sideways. I marked this one here. You get a triple test of this. Notice you went higher once, twice, three times. You actually went up here. It didn't quite test it though, so this is still part of that same move. It's also a second entry short. It's a little congested though. The key is, do you have room to get out here? And if you do, you probably take that trade because it's been working up and down. The last couple of times it tried to go lower, it just kind of ended in the middle. It couldn't go higher or lower. So they're duking it out right in there, and it's really kind of neutral. So I'm not crazy about that one, but there is the triple test. It would have been good for a scalp, and then it bounces out of there. But that's your concern because it could have bounced out of there before it reached the scalper's profit, and you would have got burned on that one. So you just got to be careful on those. I marked it green, but I'm not crazy about it. We run up. You get a first entry, and then you get a second entry. That signal bar is not good enough, and then there's a lower high right here, but it's really congested. And then a few minutes later, you get your failure right there. So if you want to go short one tick below that. It looks like we got a channel working down through here. It didn't really it wasn't really confirmed, but I still think it's valid, and prices are going to probably work down for that measured move that I showed you earlier. You don't know that it's going to drop down that's a real strong trend. It doesn't look like it. That's one of those with the small bars and lots of stems and dojis and so forth. That's a strong trend. So people have figured it out. We're going lower here and probably going to get a measured move. We run down to the other side of the channel and we just start working sideways here. I don't see anything I like here. There's a possible short right here, but again, it's congested. And we haven't always been going below that midline, so it's a little dangerous. But we finally get a little failed breakout, then we try to break higher and fail, and it turns down. You might enter on that one. Just make sure you got enough room to scalp out. And if you actually traded it on the engulfing bar, which I don't recommend that really, it wouldn't have mattered. You would have scalped on out. But this trade would have worked out, but you end up in this sideways stuff, and most people can't ride that out. You'll end up making a mistake or taking a small loss or trying to get out at break even, and then it ends up going right where you think it's going to go, unfortunately. So you can see that just kind of chopping around. I don't see anything. I don't see much in here I like at all. You don't want to be going long yet. We don't have a measured move. We hadn't even been making it back to the highs. You actually had a failed breakout here, so that could be the trap that's going to push it on down. But they're really duking. You can see that the buyers and sellers are really at equilibrium here. The EMA is starting to turn down. Notice how even though your highs all look similar there, notice how your closes are getting lower each time. That's not a good sign. Or your closes and your openings are getting lower and lower here, and the closes are getting lower. That's a sign that, hey, we're probably going to break lower. You don't want to trade that though. You got to wait on something better. And you do get a second entry here that's real tempting, but your signal bar is not good enough, so you can't take that one. But if you wait a few minutes, it comes back, it tests it again. This one's really tempting, and if you'd have entered there, there's actually two clear measured legs up. I'll mark that one green. I think you need to wait on a lower high here. Notice that if you measure this distance here, that's the dash line, and we had a perfect measured move. We actually went a little further here, but then you get the two legs up. But when you make this lower high with that big bearish bar, I like going short there. You're probably going to run on down and at least test this low again and maybe get your measured move, which it does, and then it bounces. Nothing to enter in here. There's no rejection here. We're just kind of going sideways. I don't see anything I like there to the long side yet. And then we just get right back in this blue channel. It's still kind of acting up here. Again, I don't really see any trades. It's too sideways here. You're starting to trend down here. You get a lower high, but your signal bar is not great. And then your failure's not even quite back to the EMA. It looks like they do come back and test it, and then the smarter traders say, hey, we're probably going lower. If you'd have gone lower short there, that's a little better, but I'd still mark that green. And of course, finally now we bounce out of there, and we have this strong momentum up. You get a pullback first entry, pullback. There's a second entry there, and then you have this run that runs all the way back down to the EMA really, and turns up. That's a very bullish bar, and you're not really looking at second entry. You're just playing the range now. As long as you got enough room to get out, I'd say take that trade. It's such a strong reversal bar that it's probably going to at least go back to the highs, and you can see it does. It actually breaks out, pulls back. It makes a higher low here, but too much congestion there. Another higher low, but it's finding resistance at the highs, and then it kind of breaks out. But notice it's when a perfect measured move, and it can't really close or get higher than that. But finally, it breaks out, pulls back first entry. Then there's a second entry long right there. I marked that one green. You've had multiple tests of this 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the fourth time, so I really like that. Well, you could almost argue this one's real close to being blue if it wasn't for that little congestion. But when it pulls back and gives you a failed second entry short right there, I like going long. And off it goes. And that takes you into the 2:30 hour, but off it goes there. And that's a fairly strong move up. I would at least look for a measured move here. And you can see that's pretty close. We went a little bit higher before it sold off. So back out and look at the big picture. Clearly two legs down, two perfect measured legs. And then we corrected some after that. We actually end up selling back off here, but we still closed back inside this above the close or the open today. So we really ended up almost unchanged from our regular opening. And we ended up closing down from the close yesterday. So another down day. And that's the way I saw it. So it's getting late in the day, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. But again, I'd characterize this as two measured legs down and then a little bounce off the lows. So nothing really dramatic about it. I mean, this was a fairly good move up, but they gave at least half of it back again before the close. So it's not a sustainable trend at this point. You know, maybe we get some traction here, and by tomorrow we trend up. We'll just have to see. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.